to Dominica, and I really think we could make it. But as a people, we have to learn to commit. Journey ahead will never be smooth and sweet. But as an ambitious nation, we have to be upbeat. I know we have done it before, so we can do it again. All the pain we've endured, but pride we have to maintain in order to create a better world. Every living soul has to play their role. Opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make Dominica strong. We have an opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make Dominica strong. We got to stamp out the devil, stamp out all evil, jealousy, not by me, certainly. We got to stamp out greediness, stamp out wickedness, jealousy, not by me, certainly. Tomorrow is the first day, the rest of our lives. Let's make tomorrow the first day of the rest of our life. We have an opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make our country strong. Change, change. I remember the love and unity that we once shared. Starting from the home, the children would be prepared. Goodness was a daily part of our living. This society would be part of our children upbringing. We used to eat everything we grow and grow everything we eat. But smiling faces would glow and our people were real discreet. We need to go back to where we were. Otherwise we'll witness things we never seen before. We have an opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make Dominica strong. We have an opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make Dominica strong. We got to stamp out the ugly, stamp out cruelty, jealousy, not by we, certainly. We got to fight hypocrisy, all conspiracy, jealousy, not by we, certainly. Tomorrow is the first day, the rest of our life. Tomorrow is the first day of the rest of our life. We have an opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make our country strong. Oh, change, change. Grandma used to say that laziness is a real crime. It captivates your body, then retards your mind. As a people, we have to change this old attitude and give our country all the love we really should. Instead, we sit and we criticize, where we say let's now analyze and give young people no scope in difficult times just how to cope. It's us to build them the foundation in order to build a stronger, vibrant nation. Opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make Dominica strong. We have an opportunity to change things around, an opportunity to change things, an opportunity to make Dominica strong. We got to stamp out crookedness, stamp out all slackness, jealousy, not by we, certainly. We got to stamp out the negative, what's unproductive, treachery, not by we, certainly. Tomorrow is the first day, the rest of our lives.
All right. Yes, wherever you are at this time, welcome to the program. That program is called Civic Vibes. Yes, CIVIC VIBES. Civic Vibes each and every Sunday on the social media space. It's just 8 minutes past 6 o'clock, and that is where we want to make a start to this evening's program. We have two very, very interesting segments for you this evening, as you know how we do it each and every Sunday on the Civic Vibe Sport. So please, as I ask you now, as we're about to take flight, as it were, please make yourself feel very, very comfortable because you are indeed in tune for two very, very interesting hours here. The first segment, we'll be talking to some very, very formidable, I call them very resilient people in Dominica. They go by the name, the Wednesday Walkers. We're going to talk to at least two of the members this afternoon here. And so if you're in the viewing audience or listening audience here, and you're part of that very resilient group of people, good evening to you in a very, very special way. So far, so good. You have made us feel proud in Dominica. When I say us, meaning those of us who are not part and part or quote part and part of the system, that is, yeah. So we're about to speak with two members here. They'll introduce themselves in just a while. So you can be in tune for that conversation. And the second leg, the second segment, we'll be talking to some folks from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where a young lady have been going through some situation for good length of time, and she will be making an appearance there, most likely with one or two lawyers here to basically tell you guys her story and just how you can help. So it's going to be interesting. 10 minutes past the good old hour of 8 o'clock. Everyone here, pleasant good evening to you in a very special way. Without much ado, Alvin, good evening to you, my bro. How are you?
Yes, Lofty. Good evening to you, my brother. Pleasure again to be once again on the program, Civic Vibes, yet another Sunday. And to say a pleasant good evening to all those who have already locked into the program. I can see the feed is blazing already. But Lofty, just before I start the program, I just want to extend my deepest sympathies and condolences to the family of Arthur Smith. Arthur passed earlier this week, and Arthur was a good friend of mine, an activist. I'll describe him as that as well. Someone who stood up and fought justice on behalf of people. He served the Public Service Union, the CSA, during my tenure, during my time. We both worked extended period of time in the Civil Service Association. And he was one that really represents his country. He was a scout. He was a teacher at the Rosa Boys School. He served on the credit union board, various committees, worked at the credit union, worked at the labor division, worked at the Employers Federation. So he contributed. And therefore, I want to extend, even in the area of culture, he was one of the founding members of the Souffle Mutai Chorale. So I want to extend sympathies on behalf of Civic Vibes to his family and friends. We were close friends, as I said. And therefore, as I recall, back in 2019, he wrote a 18-page letter to the then president, Charles Savre, on the whole question of electoral reform, and raised some very pertinent questions in that open letter to His Excellency then on electoral reform. So clearly, he has played his part and left a legacy. So as I do that program today, to be honest with you, I really want to dedicate that program to him and his family. I also want to extend condolences to the family of Paddington LeBlanc, who passed this morning. And that is the uncle of my wife and uncle of Judge Irvin Andre. Paddington just celebrated 100 years. He turned 100 in March of this year, the 27th of March. And he passed this morning at 100. He's the uncle of Judge Justice Irvin Andre. Justice Andre's mother and Paddington are brothers and sisters. And he's also the brother of my wife's mother. So I want to extend condolences to the family. and to say, you know, hold strong, be strong. So this week was a little emotional for me, but life goes on. Those of us who are still there have to continue the fight. And that's why I come every Sunday and keep the fire burning. We can't give up. We can't give up. And I just want to finally say my last opening comments is to say congratulations to Annette Sanford in the Kalinago territory. I mean, this is huge. I know we will have another program at some point in time to discuss that. But while I'm here, I want to take the opportunity to say congratulations to Annette and to Claudius. Because like they say, behind every good man is a good woman, and behind every good woman is a good man. So, yes. And the whole community of the Kalinago. So that's all I'll say for now. And again, I look forward, want to welcome Margot and Pyro, two stalwarts who are on the front line. They're on the front line fighting. You know, in the military terms, you have those on the front line, and you'd have those back in the office working strategy, and the generals and the admirals. But then you have the frontline fighters that you cannot neglect. So I want to say to Margot and Pyro and the rest of the crew who have succeeded in their fight to liberate Dominica, welcome, and it's a pleasure. I look forward to the conversation this afternoon. Thank you.
All right, indeed. Alvin, thank you very much, my brother, for your opening remarks and to all the condolence messages that you sent forth. So I will not spend too much more time because we only have an hour, just about an hour with our Wednesday walkers here in terms of their representation here this evening. So in order, those messages that you just sent out. Let me just send kudos or credits to Joy Stout. We normally start with this song that she sang last year, I believe, Opportunity for Change, for Dominica to be strong. So Joy, good evening to you, my bro. Thank my sisters. Sorry, thank you very much indeed for that song that we always use sometime on Civic Vibes, Opportunity for Change for the better for Dominica. Let's go now to our esteemed guests here. We also will be talking to them on various issues as it relates to their mission / our mission for Dominica. Which one of you guys want to sort of, get the ball rolling here? Young lady, young man, good evening to you guys. In terms of introduction, just, spell it out.
I'll go for it. Good evening, Lofty. Good evening, Alvin. Good evening to everyone watching. Big up the Wednesday walkers. I know some of them are watching right now. Much love to you guys, especially those who are still walking. It's been a 2-year craziness for us. Lofty, let me just start from the beginning, right? This started way before, that whole dégagement there.
Margot, before you go in the dégagement aspect, there are some people who are watching, they don't know who is Margot. Just a brief intro.
Oh, Margot Larocque,
yes.
Born in Dominica. I am from the Larocque clan of Roseau, Coolibistry, you know what's up. I came home 8 years ago, and I thought everything was supposed to be, moving along sweetly, and it just is taking a nosedive, really. And so that is why we started walking. We actually started walking way before. We started walking History Week, okay? We got with Moon Sevier, it was Athi Mate and myself, and about 7 Moon Sevier members. So we decided to do a walk from the cruise ship berth all the way to Newtown, and stop off at the locations that, have some history to it. And we were met there because I did a flyer for it, and we were met there at the cruise ship berth by about 10 police in camouflage and guns. So we were like, wow, we walked through them. We said, good afternoon. And we kept walking. They followed us up the hill. We were met by 3 other officers. And we were still wearing our masks during COVID. They made it a point to come over and tell us we shouldn't be standing next to each other, which we weren't. We were spread out. We were by the library at this point, talking about why we can't fix it and what's really going on. Sorry, I live in the middle of town, so you might hear some traffic going by.
No problem.
Yeah, we continued down to the old Roseau Schoolboy, that old stone building at the bottom of the hill. And they followed us, till nightfall, wasting gas and just going around and around. So it just showed us like, wow, it's 10 of us. And this is a problem. So months later, Afi and I were talking again because we see a lot of people saying, boy, I hear a lot of talk. We want action. We want action in Dominica. So Afi said, Margo, you know what we should do? Instead of talk, we should walk. And I said, let's walk. And so he went on the radio. Remember that? He said, I'm armed and dangerous. You know, he gave like a drama. So everybody was like, woo, fire. But over 400 people showed up for that first walk. The second walk, about maybe more than half of that. And then the third walk, it dwindled a little bit, but people were still coming out, you know, and that's when they delivered this to my door. Boom. That's it. You know, summons for walking in procession without permission. Now, Lofty, like I said,
Margo, can you just not to trip? Can you just go ahead and read exactly what is on that summons for us to hear, please?
Okay, it says my name, my address, and on the 30th day of March 2022 at Roseau in the Commonwealth of Dominica, Margot Larocque, actually Sarah and Margaret Larocque, did take part in a public procession in the city of Roseau without the written permission of the Commissioner of Police to do so. And they quote the Public Order Act, Chapter 1501, Consolidated Laws of Dominica of 2017. So this was, I got 2 summons, one for the second and the third walk. And I believe all of us, there were 10 of us that got them. I was the only female and the rest were males. Pyro is one of the gentlemen who received that. And Pyro gave them fever in that court because the first day we did take lawyers, but then decided not to because we saw where it was going. They were just going to keep pushing the date. And it took 2 years of pushing this date without the officer showing up, without the DPP showing up. I think that officer showed up twice in that entire length of time, which is just crazy. If I don't show up, I get a warrant for my arrest, but he doesn't. You know, it makes no sense. You know, so.
Here you are today.
Yes, but it's finally over, and we are in discussions. I don't want to spill the beans, but in how to handle this, because it's a waste of people's time. It's a form of harassment. You know, this is always in your head. You have to go to court, and you don't know what's going to happen. You know, so it's just you know, it's just crazy. Yeah. I mean, they have harassed us to no end. Every walk, you have about 2 to 3 police following us around. For what? People are singing church songs, you know, praying, and I don't get it. We're not violent. We're armed with the Holy Spirit and a bottle of water. That's it. And so this is what you're doing. There's so much criminal activity happening in Dominica, but I don't see you following them around. You know, why are you following us? That makes no sense.
Yeah. Margo, thank you very much for sort of, you know, laying down the foundation for us. Brother Pyro, welcome, my brother, and greetings. Your mic is off. Yes.
Yeah, Lofty, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, yes.
Okay. Yeah, good evening to everybody. Good evening, Civic Vibes and listeners. So yeah, Lofty, like Pyro, Davidson. A lot of people know me as Pyro. But yeah, we did participate in the walk for a few times, and well, not just for a few times, you know, over an extended period of time. And yeah, it was like a collaboration between Afi and Mounserie, because I'm really a member of Mounserie. And before even the walk, we were going around the country and visiting different sites, and like we went to Loda, where they had the quarry at Loda. So then when Afi came up with the walk, it was just natural for us to participate within the walk, you know. And it's just like Margo been saying, because of our participation and the perception of the walk, we were all, a few of us were summoned to court. A few of us were summoned to court, and nobody took like a period of about 2 years. Again, is a violation. Is a violation because the system wants to question our rights. It's supposed to take it to the High Court.
Yeah.
There they could question the Constitution because we're only acting on our constitutional rights. You know? It's freedom of movement, freedom of association, freedom of assembly, freedom of conscience, and so on. You have fundamental rights, and it's important to know your fundamental rights. Yeah, you know what. But yeah, I feel like, yeah, the work, it had its effect. It had its effect. But more education, most importantly, I believe, we as Dominicans, we need to be educated about our constitutional rights. The vast majority of us have no clue what is our constitutional rights, what it entails, how it affords us that power to interact within our society. And it's a conversation I just feel that can never stop. Doesn't matter what is the outcome, but this conversation always has to continue. People
Yeah.
always need to be educated. I mean, I understand the government came and they said they were going to reintroduce civics into school some years back, and up till to this date, nothing has been done. Instead, is excuses and excuses and excuses. And when it comes to the empowerment of we as a people, we see no, how should I put it? We see no effort being made by the authorities to educate the people to educate us as ourselves, the next generation to come, what are their rights, how they can deal with things, how we're supposed to interact with one another in the institutions of what is a society. You know? And those things are very, very important because we have to be able to understand, comprehend each other so we can interact, resolve our problems as a society. Without that, there is no understanding. There's no real society. It's just a farce.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pyro and Mago, just before Alvin comes in here, let me just ask you guys, very hatically as it were, going through the walks, the different walks that you guys participated in, do you think that it helped energize other people in terms of standing up for their rights in Dominica?
Well, Lofty, yes, it did. And the problem with most of those people were that they were afraid to come and join us, and they would constantly tell me that on the road. I can be anywhere, boy. I want to come with all but my job, and it just became the same rhetoric every time. So I understood. I mean, you have children to feed, you cannot lose your job. But at some point, you have to stand up for yourself because we're losing our rights, one by one. If I cannot walk in town, on a Wednesday, it's a problem for me. I can walk Tuesday and any other day, but Wednesday with people. Do the people who come down to Roseau in mass for carnival, do they have permission to be in town, to walk around? There's so many, when tourists come out and they're walking in large groups, do they have permission to walk? So why it's not about, I know it's not about the walk, it's about what we're saying. It's about how we're trying to educate people, just like Pyro said. And that is the problem. It's like, don't educate them, let them think that they don't have any rights to do anything, and it's wrong. So and like our other Calypso sister has said, wrong plus wrong is wrong, so it can never be right.
Yeah, thanks. Alvin?
Yeah, well, I just want to ask, because I want to hear from Mago and Pyro, so I'm going to do a little less talking. But what lessons do you think that the workers have learned from this and the wider community? Is there an awareness? Because the case was thrown out, you heard a little of it in the media, and everything just went cold again, in the sense that I think that's a big deal, and it's something we have to continue to talk about, like Pyro said, and that is why we're on Civic Vibes. So people understand that a fundamental right was how should I say, was taken away.
Was being violated, yeah.
Violated, yes, violated. So what lessons you think you guys learned from it? And do you think the wider Dominican community learned something?
Pyro.
Yeah, what I think, I definitely think it had an impact. As to the magnitude of the impact, that is a question, but it definitely had an impact because, I mean, some people actually, like some people, I mean, people already came up to me and checking, like, what you doing, and you could actually, like, people would see, like, that is the real application of the Constitution. So, because we will never really stop. I mean, they prevented us from going up Kennedy Avenue, right? And that in itself is a violation because the Constitution tells you freedom of movement. You cannot prevent people from moving. So they took us to court. Well, I've had maybe four different cases in that court. But right now, basically won every one of them.
They know you very well there. They know your fist good.
Yeah, yes. But the thing about it, the case was dismissed, right? There is no reason as to why the case was dismissed. I specifically asked the magistrate, why was the case dismissed? Why were the charges? And she said she doesn't know. Turned to the prosecution and asked them, and police officers got vexed and started chopsing and saying I should just leave.
So, Pyro, you said the magistrates tell you she doesn't know why the case was dismissed.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Pearl Williams. Yes.
Yep.
So okay. Pyro, Mago, can you paint a picture for us? A typical day that you guys went to court. What transpired? How did it unfold?
Well, we would wait to get our names called, go in there, and they would say, okay, well, we're moving the date. And that's it. That's it. Every
Well,
time.
I
Up
told
to
you the first time I went to court, I asked for clarification, and that brought up an issue because I asked the magistrate, I wanted to ask the magistrate, but then I was prevented. And that is why sometimes I question even our local lawyers and their capabilities and how they interpret the law. Because here it is, we have someone to court and charges are being read, and I'm asking for clarification, and the magistrate is telling me that I should speak to my lawyer, but she's the one that is managing the courtroom. She's the one that is in charge of the courtroom, and she doesn't want to hear what I have to say.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to ask her directly, like, if the Constitution is valid, what is the validity of our Constitution? And even today, I mean, there are issues that I see even today that is ongoing, that is serious constitutional matters, and we hear nothing from the judiciary. Because I consider right now Dominica is in a constitutional crisis.
Mhm.
When you read the Constitution and you look at the situation we are in right now, presently, we are at a constitutional crisis. And our judiciary, who's supposed to be protecting our Constitution institutionally, this is nothing about it. And there's like that whole educational vibes between the public and that third branch of government. I mean, even at the court, we go to the court and police officers would not know that the judiciary is a third branch of government. Just so you would have the parliament, the cabinet, and the judiciary. So it's three branches of government. It's a Westminster system. It's a modified Westminster system.
So let me ask Margot, on the day
Yes.
in question for that particular case, you said there were 10 of you, 10 of you?
Yes,
10?
sir.
Okay. So when you got to the court, just tell me what transpired that morning. I guess tell me, give me a little synopsis of how it went and what the magistrate said, to you guys.
Well, first of all, they kept us waiting forever outside in the hot sun. Now they've put overhang there, but they didn't really say anything. They just addressed the DPP. The officer himself was there that first time, and that was it. They just they don't have a charge yet, so they just moving the date. That's basically it.
Yeah, but
There
when
was
the matter was finally dismissed, what did the magistrate say? How did they dismiss it?
exactly what Pyro said is like the matter's been dismissed. Pyro asked why, and that's how they reacted. Chups in court, and
Yeah,
and
because
get it's
they,
come
they,
on.
they, they keep playing games. They were playing games, right? So what they did, first they had us in a group. Then they divided us and they made all of us come one by one. Then they came and they put us back in a group. And they said they wanted to deal with us as a group. Then they come back the day they dismissed the case and they did all of us one by one and told each of us that the case has been dismissed. But I asked the magistrate why, and she told me she doesn't know. That was her answer, that is craziness, that is madness. How you summoning somebody to court, have them in court for almost 2 years, and then one day just decide, okay, no more case, no reasoning, no discussion, no nothing. Asking the question, and instead of you could get an answer, is officers feeling offended that you're asking something that you have a right to ask. And it's like almost like the institutions do not understand that people have rights. We have rights as citizens, as people that live within the country. Even a resident, doesn't matter, as long as you in this jurisdiction, you have rights as an individual. And the institutions have to show that. They have to accept that. And I feel that is one of the issues where we have this understanding problem, interpretation problem, comprehension problem. And the people that are managing our society are not doing a good job at communicating. They're not doing a good job really maintaining the balance of the society. And it's affecting everybody. It's affecting everybody.
Yeah. Pyro, yes, thanks for your response, you and Mago. Alvin asked the question again, and I just want to go back there a bit, because what transpired in court on the final day when you guys matter was dismissed, to me, something is wrong about that, fundamentally wrong. I'm not a lawyer by profession, but knowing some things about the legal rights of people, the rights of people. If I am charged with whatever crime there is, I have rights. These rights are supposed to be protected. Now, Pyro said you guys kept coming to court and the date was just pushed back, push back, push back, push back. On the day, the magistrate decided to dismiss the matter. Pyro asked the question, my worship or my lord or whatever it is, why? And there was no logical reason as to why. The prosecution, to me, had to at least indicate to the court as to why they were dropping the charges, for want of prosecution, want of evidence, whatever it is. And then the magistrate now had to communicate that to you guys in court to say, okay, guys, your case is dismissed because of ABC. But to just be so casual about yes, it sends that kind of signal that from the initial stage of that matter, there was this malicious intent, and they knew jolly well that it could not have gone anywhere, but they was just, pushing you guys, persecuting you guys, as it were. And that is where, personally, Mago, Pyro, and the listening public, I have very little confidence and not much good to say about some of our lawyers in Dominica. Because in another country where the rule of law is supposed to be maintained, a couple lawyers would already prance on that matter and see you guys for 2 years on, going through a system, going through a process that at the end of the day just falls flat on its face. And I heard Margot said she don't want to put the cat out of the bag or whatever it is for future. But something needs to be looked into in terms of that kind of willy-nilly, vai attitude where people's rights are concerned. And it just struck me that we are living in a country, Dominica. If we leave those things up to the system to protect us, then we will be at B. It is we, the people, the citizens now that have to, as Pyro said, know our constitution. Someone has a, I'm getting a feedback
Bruce,
from someone.
That's Bruce. Yeah, okay, it's good.
Yes, all right. Sorry, Bruce. Okay. Yes, as I was saying, it's like, it's we the citizens that must come to the fore now and make it happen for us in terms of the protection of our fundamental rights. Walking in Roseau, I heard Margo already, they twist it and talk about procession. A procession takes on, in my mind, a particular order. Somebody can just be walking in Roseau and the police or the state determine that to be a procession. No. So to me, these people knew jolly well that they had no case. But in terms of having you guys continue to suffer, which they do as an extension to other people's rights, then, you know, they just take it as like, you know, oh, these people don't know their rights, so let us just use them and abuse them. But Margo, I am really hoping and praying that you guys continue with that matter. Do not let up. And let the state know that you guys know your rights and you will stand up for it. And the state should be able to compensate you guys for that 2 years of loss of time, loss of finance, loss of whatever it is, for that abuse of power. It cannot continue. And so, you know, it's just sad. And that is why we put that program on every Sunday to help educate the masses out there to at least stand up for it. And again, Margo, Pyro, and the crew, the Walkers crew, you guys did a phenomenal job. Imagine every Wednesday the state had to spend resources and send resources as well. To do what? Unnecessarily having police following you guys all over the place as if, well, we are living in Russia. We are living in this Lukashenko guy country. No. And it is only when we stand as one and demand our rights, then the state and the court and the system will react. They will back down and say, you know something? We have been climbing some trees, but these trees are glue trees as it were. So let us step aside. Yeah. Let us just take a call. I saw a call coming in. Caller, yes, good evening. Civic Vibes. Caller, good evening. Caller, good evening. You are on. All right. I think that caller doesn't want to talk to us at this time. Let's continue. Yes, Margo.
Yes. So Lofty, my real issue with this was, first of all, it was not a procession because, like I said, I grew up in the middle of Roseau. I know what a procession looks like. You cannot have people on the left side in the middle of the street over there, and that's not a procession. It's just a bunch of people outside. Okay? I walked for 91 walks, you know, until I stopped walking because I say Dominican's not serious. When are you ready, I'll come back. But 91 walks, so how come I get 2 summons? Where's the rest? I want the rest of my summons. Where's the rest of the summons? I just don't get it. If I was breaking the law, you let me walk 89 more times to make the 92? That doesn't make sense to me. The maths doesn't add up. You know? So it's nonsense. And they knew it was nonsense. They knew it was just a harassment that they were trying to do. Or just keep them there. Just keep them pressured. They have Lennox Linton, you know, coming in for being with us outside. His brother, Bernardito, all these guys. It's like, come on, these guys have things to do. They even stopped coming to court after a while. They didn't. Only 4 of us showed up on the last day. You know, because the 3 months before that was our last court date. 3 months before, we went to court and they said, oh, the DPP came to a conclusion, but she didn't print it out. No, she's not in court herself, but she didn't print it out, so we have to come back. This is the kind of nonsense we were dealing with. It's like, seriously, guys, y'all are getting paid to do this? It's pure madness.
Yeah, we have a caller on the line. Let's see if we can facilitate this caller. Caller, yes, good evening, Civic Vibes, you're on. Caller, are you listening? Are you hearing me? You're on. Go right on. Caller 123, are you listening? Go right on. All right, it seems this caller is not hearing me saying go right on. I'm hearing his background, so that means the audio is going through. All right, Alvin, yes, go on.
Yeah, let me just ask though, and like you said earlier, Margot, you guys intend to take this thing further, and I hope you do, because quite apart from our constitution that has been violated, there's a violation of the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, UN Convention. And I think the point Lofty make need to be reinforced, because not too long ago, the judge, Williams, in 2 of the assizes, gave a scathing comment on the judicial system in Dominica. You have people on reprimand at the state prisons for God knows how long, and so many violations that are taking place. So I think, as Pyro said and you said, it comes a time where the lawyers in Dominica, and maybe the region too, because we're part of the OECS. So if an attorney in St. Lucia, Grenada, or wherever see a violation, they should be able to say and collaborate with their fellow attorney in Dominica, because most times some of these attorneys can practice in various jurisdictions. So you may be in St. Lucia, but you can practice in Dominica, you know, if you're called to the bar. But what I'm saying, there need to be a network of these legal people to say, hey, your rights are violated. How do we take this thing to the next level? How do we take it from the local level to the CCJ level, or the international courts, or the UN, or wherever? And I would really hope that you guys don't slip on that. Because from what has been said so far and what transpired is a clear violation of your constitutional right in Dominica, your rights even under CARICOM. CARICOM has a treaty, you know, that speaks about human rights. I don't have time to look at it now. And the United Nations, the International Court of Justice and Human Rights. So I'm appealing to the attorneys who are listening, both in Dominica and the rest of the region, that this is a case that they should put their teeth into and really look at it and provide the legal support that you all require. Like Pyro said, at one point you say you're not going in with an attorney because it's a waste of resources. Could you imagine if for 2 years you had to pay a lawyer? What that would cost you guys? But Pyro, I see you wanted to come in and make a comment.
We have someone on the line. Pyro, just hold your thought 1 minute. Caller, yes, good evening to you. Let's see if we can hear this caller this time. Yes, caller. Wow. All right. Something is not happening.
Yeah.
Callers, please use 615-9470 instead. Let me see if this other line will work. All right. I'll punch that number.
Go ahead, Pyro. You can jump.
Caller, yes. Good evening.
Yes, Alvin.
All right. Seems
caller.
Yeah, go ahead, Pyro.
Yes, go ahead, Pyro.
Okay. One of the things also is the media coverage of those cases. I mean, you have a case as important as the questioning of our constitutional rights, something that would affect every single one of us, right? This thing is not about red, blue, or anything like that. Questioning, taking someone to court and questioning their constitutional right to freedom of movement, freedom of association, freedom of
assembly.
Yeah, freedom of assembly, freedom of movement, freedom of association, freedom of conscience, and so on. And to have the judiciary question our constitutional right, this is something that should have been of national importance. And it did not receive that type of level of coverage. I mean, we only had one interview with Curtis Maxwell. It's only myself did the interview. And that was about it. So I think moving forward, that is another aspect that we should really look into. The coverage of those cases, because some of those cases, I mean, it's things that are going to affect every one of us. Because take, for instance, the court had just decided that they would have just find us guilty bogusly and give us whatever reprimand or whatever. Is a precedent that would have been set in the court.
Absolutely.
You know, and not being aware, and that is where all them things is part of the education that the public, we as our fellow Dominicans and residents and anyone that's in Dominica, in the jurisdiction, and like Alvin said, even in the region, because we have one court system, for the OECS.
That's right.
Right? And CARICOM by extension. So these are things that affect us, not just locally, but regionally also. And yes, it's of utmost importance, and we need to start treating it like that. So that is what I really wanted to add into there.
Yeah. Margot, come in, Margot.
Yes, I'm a part of a regional group, the Stronger Caribbean. It's a capitalism disaster team. And they're under pressure just like we are. Like Barbuda, for that airport, they keep trying to shove down their throats. Jamaica, all these islands have a lot of the same issues we have when it comes to environmental things. I don't know if you know, I'm a part of WAVE, the White Kubli Advocates for Viable Environments. Yeah, that is the baby of the Dominica Conservation Association, Afimate and Henry Shillingford, who are still honorary members of WAVE. So, I'm in constant contact with these people, and we all have the same issues, and so they're very busy with those things, environmentally. So to take up cases like Gland, to take a case like this, it doesn't seem as important as what we just went through. So I understand, but like you said, we need better lawyers here. We have the lawyers. We just need lawyers to step up. Like we can't put everything on Cara Shillingford's shoulder. She's the lioness. I just don't think we take things seriously enough here. So we're backsliding. We're regressing. I think people just want to go back to slavery when they're being told what to do, when to wake up, when to eat. That's not how people should be living. We're living in a beautiful country. You know how many people want to come to Dominica? Even Dominicans want to come home, and some of them, when they come here and they see the Guaye, they just don't want to be here again. I said I'm not leaving until we fix this. so that's it. I'm not going anywhere until it gets fixed, and we can fix it. And it takes everybody out there, because it is the people. We running the company. We hired some people to take positions, but we should be telling them, hey, you're not doing the job. You're fired. You fired. All about you fired. So many people need to be fired, but they're getting their weekly salary or their whatever, their bi-weekly, and just going about it like nothing's happening. A lot of things are going on in the environment, and it's just whatever. People under dust, people in noise, and they just keep waking up, going to sleep, waking up, going to work, and not fighting for their rights to stop it. How much money are we going to spend on geothermal? We almost close to 400 million there, and what? We don't even have a spark to light a spark bulb. Now a whole new company has taken over. OMAT, a whole new company, new people from a different place. So this is what we're dealing with. So to bring up these cases of our constitutional right, I don't know who will fight for that. Who will fight for us?
Well, we have to fight for ourselves, Margot. We have to continue the fight. Yeah. Folks, it is 8 minutes to the hour of 7 o'clock. Let's take that all-important break at this time before we ask our guests here, Margot and Pyro, for their final comments. Let's do this. We'll be back in just a bit. We're going to take one from Nasio entitled Justice. That is what we're talking about tonight, yeah? Justice indeed.
A chance to flow now. Racism, well, that can't last. Racial discrimination is a thing of the past. So, justice. Oh, every people need some justice. Lord, justice. Down in the ghetto, we need justice. And we got justice.
Yes, folks, if you're just tuning into the program at this time,
Yeah.
we're talking to Mago and Pyro out of Dominica. A case that was dismissed sometimes last week after 2 years in the system. And you heard Mago said basically the court just decided to dismiss that matter.
It's a thing of the past, so we got to act. We got to act. Yes.
We have to stand for ourselves, people, or else no one else will.
Yeah, we try. Justice. Come on and give the people.
All right, let's see if we can facilitate a caller on this line. Caller, yes, good evening to you. Yes.
Yeah, Lofty, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, thank you. And let me say good afternoon to Alvin and Mago and Pyro and all the fans of Civic Vibes. Lofty, did I hear Pyro say they didn't tell him what the charge was? Because what I'm getting is that they summoned you to court.
No, caller, let's be correct here. They knew what the charge was. In dismissing the matter, they did not give a reason from the court's end.
Right.
But my question is, was there even a charge? What there was someone to court for under what charges? What laws they violated?
I guess you were not listening. Margot actually read the charge. They were charged for some whatever, and they quoted the section of law, basically walking in tongue, which they considered to be a procession.
They did not get permission.
Written permission for.
Illegal
that was the particular charge. But I said, they said nothing in terms of the dismissal of that matter. Yes, continue.
But yeah, Lofty, remember we also have to remember that when a police officer, the authorities charge you for anything, then it is the judge or the magistrate that will say if you break a law or you don't. The police could only assume you break a law. But I think it's the judge, it's the court that has to say, yes, this guy break a law and there should be a case to be heard and so on. But what I'm getting is like, because if they cannot tell him what they dismiss the charge is, that's the problem I have understanding. But on a bigger, a broader note, Lofty, what I learned from the workers is the awareness of the Constitution itself, to bring it on the front burner. Because as he said, a lot of us not even aware of our fundamental rights in a democratic system, like the freedom of speech, freedom to move, freedom of assembly, or freedom to associate, freedom to choose. These rights are guaranteed under the Constitution, and I really think it's a good thing that Moonsewe was trying to do and is trying to do, because without that, you haven't got no other right. Even the issue with electoral reform.
All right, caller, start to wind up for us, please, because we are pressed for time. Start to wind up, please.
Okay. But what I'm saying, Lofty, to make it short, that what I learned as a result of the workers is to raise the consciousness of our democratic right and our laws and constitution, because without laws and without a constitution, we don't have a state. So,
all right.
Lofty. Thank you.
All right, caller. Well said. Thank you very much indeed. So, Mago, Pyro, at least one person said they learned something by you guys standing up for your rights in Dominica.
Yes, of course, and that was the biggest part of it, was bringing awareness. Using the pillars of peace, justice, and prosperity, and we still haven't seen it. We haven't seen the peace, we haven't seen the justice, and we have not seen the prosperity. So we continue to, advocate for Dominica and Dominicans, and just to push the issues. Just like Moonsewe just got back on the internet, on Facebook, bringing up all the issues again. And it's like, these guys are all very intelligent. They always bring the fire. So, and you as well, Lofty. Thank you so much, you and Alvin, for for always, bringing up the tough subjects and, provoking the minds of the people. Let them think. We have to start thinking. We can't all have lazy brain syndrome, for Christ's sakes.
I know. Just before Pyro comes in, Arundel Thomas is listening here and he says, I'm on YouTube following, guys. Oh, Dominica, he writes, Roosevelt will be made to answer for his brutal violation of the rights of the citizens. More power, he says here, to the Wednesday walkers. I salute Athi, Mago, Blue, Pyro, and the resilient patriots of Dominica. Finally, he says, good job, my brother. Coming from none other than the man this is from Laku, Set Lang. All right, the village with seven
languages.
7 languages. Yes. Pyro, your final closing comments before we go, because we have a next segment coming up in just a bit.
Yeah, well, after in closing, what I'd like to really say is that our constitution, I mean, we need to be educated about our constitution. That is without a doubt. And it's not just the material education in terms of knowing it, but the application thereof, and it's of vital importance, and having the different aspects of the society interact together, especially the media coverage, so the lawyers, we all have our parts to play, and we should try to collaborate with one another as much as possible.
Right.
And that is something that kind of lacking. And it's probably a discussion that we need to have to maybe bury some things and try to build up some relationships, but definitely moving forward, yeah, the education, the push. But
yeah.
We have to keep it real because what
I just want to interject there, Pyro. What I'm saying to you is you and Mago, we have 2 other guests supposed to come on. One person is already here, a lawyer. But they are just winding up another program. I'm monitoring that other program. So as soon as they log off, then I'll give you guys the cue. So, we can stay on still. Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Go right on.
One last thing I would like to say is that also, like even protesting, there's no outright right that says we have a right to protest. But when you look at the right to protest is derived through the combination of our various rights and freedoms, That is how the right to protest is derived, and so when you start to question those fundamental rights, you're questioning our right to protest. You're saying that we do not have a right to protest. So you're trying to take that away. So it's things we have to stay on the ball and keep focused, be aware, spread the awareness, and try to help one another, educate one another as much as possible, and just driving is a difficult task, but we have to do it and stay focused in doing it, be aware in doing it, and try to do it as much as possible.
Yeah.
So,
no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Can I to make a very quick intervention on this segment program? I was listening for quite a while. If I may, I just want to make a few points very quickly. One, having listened to that part of your program tonight, it seems as if you're correct. We're having some similar problems across the region. And the situation that apparently Mago and Pyro face themselves, we've seen something similar in St. Vincent, and I'm sure that is coming up pretty soon. I agree that there is need for us to see how we can collaborate as legal practitioners across the region to help to provide the necessary support to the persons who necessarily may not be able to run to the court as often as they wish. And I too, I'm speaking to you now from Rotong Tortola, where I'm here to do some legal work, and then I'm hustling back to St. Vincent in the next few days. Okay. And hopefully Cara should be admitted here in Tortola through my chambers here. So we can do that interlinking type of work, and maybe soon I get to lend my hand in Dominica. Let me say to you, Pyro, very quickly, that the magistrate is never going to be in a position to be able to tell you why the case is withdrawn against you. It is the duty of the prosecutor to say what the position of the Crown is. And if there are hesitant to tell you what the position is, then your next course of action is to bring a civil action against the police officer who charged you, the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Minister of Justice, Commissioner of Police, charging them all for prosecuting you maliciously. And by so doing, you'd force them to say why they discontinued the charge against you. Because it would be difficult for them to say why they had that hanging over your head for 2 years and then simply dropped it without any consideration further. And the question is what compensation that should be afforded to you and Margot, who had to, it's not just whether you paid your lawyer, but it is the psychological struggles and effects that you had to succumb for 2 years plus, and then to find that there's nothing, no evidence was led against you in court. So those are a few things that I wanted to speak to, and agree, of course, that we need to do civic education across the region, because too many of our people are afraid to address matters that are affecting us. And Pyro, you must understand that protest is part of your constitutional right, my brother. It is not couched in that language in our constitution across the region. It is couched under several rights. The right to assemble, yes? The freedom of expression, protestation is a means itself. And so that freedom of expression is a constitutional right that is being seemingly attempted to be trampled upon by our judicial people across the region and the legislative people by and large. And I say so as a legislator in St. Vincent, that we have to be ever mindful that we don't allow them to step over the water continuously. I may have overstepped on my time, but I thank you so much.
No, good.
I think that was a very timely intervention, Lofty and Margot and Pyro, because that's at the tip of my lip when Pyros mentioned the word protest, because it is in there. As a trade unionist, prior in the session, I remember one of my I don't know if I can use the word mentor or someone I work with, Charles Savret. We used to say there's nothing called a legal or illegal strike, because the Constitution recognizes that you have a right to form trade union. This is the only organization that is mentioned in our Constitution under the question of freedom of association, the right to form trade union. And when you form a trade union, there's an intrinsic right in there that throughout as a trade union that you'd have to protest or strike for your rights or for your benefits.
Yeah.
So it's not going to write in there, well, you have a right to strike or protest, but intrinsic it is there. But let me just conclude very quickly by saying to both you, Margot and Pyro, I always like to end on a matter of hope. I heard Margot said, well, those attorneys, which is true, they're not forthcoming and the struggle that they're going through. But I always want to end on a spirit of hope. So Pyro, I want to compliment you guys, Monsewie, for what you're doing, the workers. And seriously, this is what Civic Vibes platform is about. And the conversation have just begun. We have to keep the conversation going. And I agree with the brother Bruce. There's another level where you could take this thing and say, well, hey, my rights were abrogated. What happens now? So I just want to compliment you guys again. I'm sure we'll bring you guys back to continue that dialogue and that conversation. And I hope those who are listening to us would be able to share that information. And Pyro, I mean, and Margot, you can always go back and listen to those Civic Vibes, conversations that we're having. So we need to continue spreading that information across the length and breadth of Dominica and even the wider region. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Definitely.
All right.
Another from our brother. Saying a pleasant good night to all of you locked into the program this evening. Margot, Pyro, a pleasant good evening to you guys. Whatever is left of your evening, do enjoy. And we enjoyed every bit of the conversation with you guys, indeed. Keep up the fight. Margo and Pyro, keep it up, right?
Yes,
See you guys
of
another
course.
time. Bye-bye.
Yes. Thank you, Lofty. Thank you, Alvin.
All right, you're welcome. All the best. Take care, Pyro.
Yes, and Israel Bruce. Thank you, sir. All right.
Yeah, good evening to everyone.
All right.
You wanna touch the sky? For you to judge me? Waka, you a bad boy, you can't buy me. So big bad wolf.
He calls this one wolf catcher.
Bad wolf.
Are you a big bad wolf?
The big bad wolf. Well, I'm the wolf catcher. Don't you know I'm the zookeeper?
Let's take that all-important break at this time before we get set for our other guests from St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Big bad wolf. But I'm the wolf catcher.
Sort of on the same line, topic. Gonna hear from Adriana King in just a while and her lawyers. You heard from one a while ago, Mr. Bruce. He's already seated and ready to go.
Then meet up your bird.
I just monitored the other program. At least they're done, so they should be logging on pretty soon.
Yeah, that's what they'll do.
So if you need to take a break at this time, you can do that and come back.
I jealous I fly so high. You wanna touch the sky? Why you judge me? Paka, you a bad, but you can't buy me. So you got a wood. You think you are the big bad wood? Hey, you're not the big bad wood. Well, I'm the wolf catcher. Don't you know?
All right, folks, the numbers to call into the program sometime later when we open up those lines, they are 245-2396 or 615-9470.
Why?
Those of you on YouTube and on Facebook, yes, thank you very much for your eyes and ears each and every time.
I hope that you know. Lord,
And on Twitter as well.
break my bones, but you think say you're bad. You say you're bad.
It's just about 10 minutes past 7 o'clock, so we're going to get to our guests live in studio at this time.
Yes, I'm gonna get course.
So let's get to them in the interest of time. I know two lawyers in the house, so you know it is in terms of the talk. And yes, Adriana King have a full story to tell as well. So let's get back to the live program here now as we're about to make a start. Ladies and gentlemen, where's Mr. Bruce? He's gone? All right. Okay, let me just say a pleasant good evening to Adriana King, K. Bacchus Baptist, and also Mr. Israel Bruce from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Welcome you guys to the Civic Vibes program right here in Dominica. Every Sunday, that program is aired every Sunday from 6 to 8. And so we decided to bring you guys on this evening in terms of Miss King. Very, very unfortunate, I should say, but interesting story that we can learn from in Dominica as well. So guys, welcome. We'll be opening up your mics in just a while. Let me just have Alvin say his opening to you guys as well in terms of his remarks. Alvin.
Yes, well, thank you, Lofty. And let me say a pleasant good evening to our guests this evening, Brother Bruce and Miss King and Miss Baptist. Baptist. Pleasant good evening to welcome to Civic Vibes. I know Brother Bruce was able to listen in on the first segment, so he heard what transpires in Dominica, which is, I'm sure, similar to what's spreading across the region. So it'd be interesting to hear from Sister King and, of course, Miss Baptist and Bruce. So welcome on board, and let's continue with the conversation.
Yes, let's continue with the rumbling as it were. Yes. All right, guys, who want to take it first in terms of saying your hi and hello, breaking the ice as it were? Greetings again and welcome.
Hi, Lofty. Thank you for...
Oh.
Hey, Bruce. Thank you for the invitation to be here with you this evening. Let me say good evening to those who are listening in Dominica and those, of course, who are joining in from St. Vincent and Grenadines and those around the world.
Yes, indeed. Miss King, you're always somebody that I love to listen to every time you speak. So I'm looking for very interesting words from you tonight. Thank you very much for making yourself present tonight. You and your legal minds with you.
Hope I don't disappoint.
No.
All right, let me also say a pleasant good evening to everyone. Adrian and I just completed another interview on Facebook. So I'm trusting that my battery would last for this one. I'm looking at it. And well, I'm looking forward to the afternoon, to the discussions.
Yes, indeed. As a matter of fact, I was monitoring that discussion, so I was in and out. So yes, you guys did a splendid job over there. So let's see if you can continue on the same trajectory here. Thank you. Mr. Bruce, we heard from you already, but officially here now, good evening.
I just couldn't avoid having heard the discussion as to what is happening in Dominica as it relates to the constitutional arrangements, and I thought that we have a Mago and a Pyro in St. Vincent by the name of Adriana King. I was forced to make that intervention. But let me just thank you so very much for having me. And I trust that we'll be able to assist with moving the constitutional knowledge and awareness across the Windward Islands.
Yes, indeed. Again, folks, welcome on board. Adriana, let's get right into it. I know you have a very interesting story to tell. I know you have been going through much. In terms of where do you want to start, who want to start, either one of your legal minds here, just belt it out as it were. Let's go.
Well, I will give way to Mrs. Bacchus-Batiste.
Yes.
Okay, well, I should say Adriana's woes began in 2021 when a number of civic organizations, including the NDP, which is the opposition party, of which I'm a member, of which Bruce is also a member, organized protest against the vaccine mandate, among other things. Adriana, like many thousands of persons who came out to protest that in that demonstration, was in the audience, in the on the streets as everybody else. But Adriana and about 8 other persons who I think the government believed to be social activists were arrested and charged. I will tell you, I can read the charge. 3 charges they all got, about 9 of them. That on the 5th of August in Kingstown, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, within the 1st Magisterial District, did knowingly take part in a public procession in contravention of Section 5(1) of the Public Law, the Public Order Act. They were also charged on the 29th of July, 2021, again in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, knowingly take part in a public procession meeting in contravention of Section 5(1). And they were charged for that on the 5th of August in St. Vincent and Grenadines and within the 1st Magisterial District, did organize or was concerned in organizing a public procession without notifying the Commissioner of Police at least 24 hours before the procession. Now, as I said, there were about 8 or 9 such persons arrested, thrown in jail, under the pretext that they were contravening the Public Order Act. That was her first, I think, bite with prison. And needless to say, all those charges were nulliprossed by the DPP by December of 2021. So these went from August to December 2021. But that was not the end of her trouble, because in September or October, I think it is, she was charged with a charge that she did obstruct the Prime Minister and prevented him from going to Parliament. This took a long process because up to 2 years and some after, they were still amending the charge. Eventually, they charged her not with obstructing, but with attempting to obstruct the Prime Minister. Come 2023, she was charged again.
You say attempting to obstruct?
Yes.
Wow.
Attempted to obstruct.
From obstructing to attempting to.
Yes. And she was again charged, and for all of these, she was taken up and kept in prison overnight. She was again charged along with her aunt and 2 or 3 others for not complying with direction given by the police as they were engaging in a demonstration within 200 yards of the courthouse. So basically, that is the introduction to the charges that were laid against her. I believe Bruce can elaborate a bit more.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Baptist. Bruce, you can go right on in terms of some sort of elaboration. Your mic is off.
It looks like he's frozen.
Mic is muted.
Yeah, and he's frozen as well. So he has some internet issues.
Okay. So,
but Ms. Baptist, let me ask a quick question. You said 9 received charges.
Yes.
And maybe Adrian could answer that. What number of persons were protesting on that initial day? Was there more than 9, 100, 200?
About 1,500 at least, Adrian. Thousands.
Thousands of people out there protesting.
So they selected just 9 out of the thousands.
Yes, right. And not just selected those 9, but Kay and Israel could support me on this. Those protests were organized on a Facebook Live with members of the media being present. They were organized by the head of the Public Service Union, the head of the Teachers Union, the New Democratic Party had someone there, the Nurses Association had someone there, and I do believe attorneys Sherlyn Barnwell and Jomo Thomas were also there because they also work for the unions. And so these men and women publicly organized and called people out to these protests. But none of them to date has ever been arrested for any protest matter.
Or charged.
Or charged. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah. All right. We see Mr. Bruce back. Thank you very much, King, for sort of explaining what went on the day. Mr. Bruce, you're back.
Yeah. I apologize for the instability of internet facilities on the island of Tortola right now. Imagine with thousands of people here at the festival this weekend, they're all probably jamming the...
Oh, okay. Okay, that's understandable.
Suffice it to say that we have to be clear that the charges that have been leveled against Adrian over the years, on careful analysis of those charges, it can be seen that it is a lovely mixture of what is purely legal and what is sensationally political. So Adrian has found herself in the crosswinds of the people who want to have their political positions satisfied, respected, adored, worshipped, if I want to put it that way, but benefit from using the law to try to stifle her from being the social activist she is, from being the conscious nation builder that she strives to be. And I think that is where the danger is. And it is things like that I believe urges myself and my senior colleague, Sister Kim, to come out at times and give up, make sure that people in the state of Adrian, we can't do it at all times. Sometimes we are strapped for time assistance. But she's always in need of that assistance because Adrian has not been, in my mind, prosecuted by the state of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I am satisfied that she's facing because presumably of her political position or the lack of clarity on her political position, if I may put it that, because I don't want to assume.
Yeah, someone is asking a question there. Marshall Lawrence on the live stream. What does St. Vincent Grenadines laws says about protests, marching, and the rights to assemble?
Well, clearly our constitution, like we all share the similar provisions in all the constitutions. We all inherited that from England, and there is the right to assembly, the freedom of expression, and all of that, which should trump. And therefore, we also are part of the United Nations Charter, so the right to protest is part of it. However, our governments have been using the Public Order Act to stifle, I agree with Israel, my brother there, to stifle protest. And so as I called out those sections there, they were charged under the Public Order Act. But the facts of the case could not maintain the charge. And that is why they had to nolly-post all of them. They couldn't really maintain them because they were not the organizers. They were not involved in any procession. They were there holding placards like everybody else, and they have a right to protest.
Thank you, Key.
I think one of the points
yes
that has to be made to
wow, Mr. Bruce, your internet is very, very unstable. Wow.
It's stable. It's unstable.
It's very unstable.
Go ahead, try again, Mr. Brother Bruce. Try again. We're coming in a little unstable.
Are you guys hearing me?
Hearing you, but it's chopping up.
Yes.
Yeah. You might have to try to log out and log back in. That's the best.
Yeah, I was making the point very quickly.
Yes.
All right. Well, I can.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. You're making the point.
I'm hearing you.
All right. So I was saying very quickly that it seems that the people of Dominica would have to pay a bit of attention to what we're discussing here now too, because I see some commonness in the direction of the political leadership of both Dominica and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And these guys seem to have been doing some copycatting. So what seemed to work in St. Vincent may be copied and attempted in Dominica. I don't want to speak to the environmental issues quite yet, though. But the point I wanted to make very, very quickly about what Sister Kibaka's Baptiste just said moments ago is that these guys have turned to very, 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 very archaic legal positions, pre-independence position, to try to prosecute people like and it behoves us.
All right, Brother Bruce,
Brother Bruce, themselves are not turning to them.
Brother Bruce, can you turn off your video to see if that will help so that we can just hear you instead? Because you're really cracking up sometimes. Yes, try.
So my video, my video is gone.
Yes, that's better.
Good. So I don't know if you're getting the last point I was making, though. I was saying that it is really frightening that our leaders in the respective countries, and when I say leaders, I'm speaking to the legal leaders and the political leaders, because one influences the other. We could say what we want, that they're separate branches of government, but we know that the construct of governments across the Windward Island, based on the constitutional instrument that we have, that they influence one another. I was making the point that when you look at legal provisions that these guys have gone to charge Adriana and Luzette and Kenson and Patches and company in St. Vincent, it's a shame that they've gone 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years back to find legal provisions under which to charge these people pre-independence, to be specific.
Yeah, and that is quite interesting of a statement, Mr. Bruce, in terms of the commonalities that we face in this region. Dominica, St. Vincent, these are the countries that we are speaking of now in terms of, we had some Dominicans before here, now we have Adriana King, and the situation continues. And it's, as I said, keep saying, we as a Caribbean people, we have to step up to the plate, because if we don't, then nobody else will.
But let me ask either Mrs. Baptiste or Bruce, just for the purposes of our listeners. You mentioned the Public Order Act. Does that act, based on what Bruce just said, predates the Constitution and independence? And if so, educate us a little, because if an act contravenes certain spirit or aspect of the Constitution, should it have any force of law? I just want a little clarity.
Good question.
You are correct. The act predates the Constitution. Certainly, the Constitution is the highest law of the land. So if provisions of that act contradicts or contravenes the fundamental clauses of the
All right.
Caribbean.
Sorry, okay. Brother Bruce, can you turn off your audio, please, when you're not talking? It's producing some feedback. Yes, go right about it. Thanks.
If, like, for example, the Public Order Act contravenes the fundamental right provisions of the Constitution must prevail. Now, when I was researching for these cases that were charged under the Public Order Act, and even before that, because they had charged Adriana's aunt, Lucette King, also, or threatened to charge under the Public Order Act. And we were quite vocal. I held press conferences and so, expressing what I thought of that act. Not only is it archaic, but there are also cases which shows that some of the provisions could very well be ruled repugnant to the Constitution. So we were prepared, if need be, to challenge the act. And I believe it is because of all these pronouncements, maybe, that all 9 cases, with each of them having 3 charges, were nolly-prossed. Because I don't think they would want a Public Order Act to be challenged and to be ruled unconstitutional. They'd rather nolly-pross the cases and leave that act hanging over people's heads, because I am certainly convinced that the aim of our government is to stifle protest. They're not interested in public order per se. And there was nothing disorderly, as far as I saw anyway, about these protestations. And it is a constitutional right to protest. So rather than have us challenge the Public Order Act, they withdrew or they nolly-prossed. But the stick is still there. And I think, sadly, it has had its effect, because persons, apart from the kings or special breed of people, are now afraid to protest in St. Vincent.
Intimidation.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Intimidation.
If we want to give our listeners a little taste of what comes out of that particular act that my learned senior friend makes mention to, I'm reading from it. For example, provided that the provision of this subsection shall not apply to, that's a different one. I'm trying to go to. That's an attempt to address some amendments. But if I go a bit into the act itself, any person who knowingly fails to comply with any directions given or conditions imposed under this section, or B, organizes any public procession held or intended to be held in contravention of this order, takes part in any public procession known to him to be held in contravention of any order made under this section, incites, aids, or abets any person to commit any of the aforesaid offenses, etc., 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 etc. So you realize that by listening to some of those, the same thing that emanated out of the Dominica case with Margot and Pyro, that even a procession, the archaic act seems to have a provision in place to prevent a procession in violation of the constitutional right of freedom of movement. And let us make this very clear from the onset. We as legal practitioners, myself and Sister Kay, are not saying that things should happen in any nefarious way or helter-skelter way. We understand that society is going to be best managed when it is properly ordered. What we're saying, though, is that, yes, your rights end when somebody else's rights begin. So that if you have any procession through the streets of Kingston or through the streets of Roseau, it is not expected that you would simply unexpectedly go before an ambulance that is taking a sick person to the hospital to try to save their life, and you would block them from proceeding to the hospital, because in essence, you are trying to deny somebody else of their right to life. So let's make that clear very early. But the very simple things, when protesters would march into the streets of Kingston, or there's a protestation happening and you're standing by, and you would select the Adriana Kings and the Kensa Kings and others to arrest them and charge them, while thousands of others are not touched. I mean, we've had situations where, I saw persons got struck and blood running from their head, all kind of nonsense happening in St. Vincent, because people choose to engage in protest. Yes? So we have to say, well, look, the Constitution says freedom of movement. I should be allowed to move once I am not hindering somebody else's right. The Constitution says freedom to assemble. I must be allowed to assemble at any point in St. Vincent once I am not preventing somebody else from exercising the right that they do have. So once you are not violating other people's right, when it comes to the Constitution of be it Dominica or St. Vincent and the Grenadines, or St. Lucia or Grenada, or what have you in the region, I'm saying that we should not have citizens subjected to criminal proceedings simply because the event that was being undertaken does not meet the approval of those politicians in government. And I'm speaking so as a politician who has to get into government.
So let me ask for the attorneys here again, going back. The cases with Nolly Pross and can the matter of the unconstitution of the Public Orders Act as it was related to Ms. King, is that a matter that can still be pursued if the fact that the cases have been Nolly Pross, or is it just over with?
I didn't get the question. You froze a bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was asking, the fact that those cases were Nolly Pross and we didn't get a chance to test the Public Order Act, like you said, in the courts because they want to keep it there. Can you guys still proceed to show where that initial charge that was made against Ms. King and the others was unconstitutional?
Well, not necessarily under those charges. A lot of time have passed. But yes, one can always challenge the constitutionality of an act. It's an expensive procedure, though. And so all of that would have to be taken into consideration.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for Adrian, you want to say anything at this time?
No, I'm okay. I'm listening.
You're good. All right. You're good.
Let me also, Adrian, you may not have benefited from the previous two guests we had, and one of the concerns that they raised has to do with civic engagement. Like you mentioned earlier, several organizations were initially part of that protest or voicing
organized the protest.
Organized the protest. Mm-hmm. What role, how is the media helping to ventilate this matter on St. Vincent, the media and other civic organizations? Are they still engaged, or like Bruce said, people become intimidated and they're withdrawn? What's their engagement like, the media and these organizations?
So about a month ago, the Public Service Union's, their president, Mr. Dorian Boucher, he organized a Facebook Live, and it's also on radio. And one of the things that he said on this live was that they dropped the ball, meaning the unions somehow forgot about me and my struggles throughout these years. So to put it plainly, much was not said by the unions about what was happening to me. But recently, because the matters were back in the court, back to back, we've had some coverage, or I've had some coverage from local media and some in the region as well. I do remember Mrs. Batiste doing a program in Grenada, and I've done some others also. So for a minute or two, people were silent. People forgot that Adriana was interdicted and that Adriana is on half pay and all of these things. But now the conversation is coming back in the limelight, to speak.
All right.
And you're doing your part. You're playing your part as the media. And as I said, I just had another Facebook Live with Jamaican journalists again. And I think these regional programs help a lot, because the government likes to pretend and project abroad that they are a democratic government loved by the people, abiding, rule of law abiding. And programs like these expose them.
True.
Yes, indeed. We have a call on the line. Let's see if we can entertain that caller. Caller, are you there? Good evening to you.
Yeah, good evening, Lofty. Good
Yes.
evening to you, panel.
Good evening, brother.
Alvin and the others. Good evening. Lofty, I think what we are seeing is there's a regional problem, and it's a regional problem structured along a sort of Labour Party, operated takeover of politics in the region, and I think we have to start thinking about addressing this problem collectively. And not just addressing it collectively, but taking the problem outside of the region. Because, this is an issue of basic rights that transcend the region, rights that are, internationally what we're supposed to have in a political and socio-economic process. And what is defeating the ability to challenge these things is cost. And well, even a lot of these lawyers right now who are getting trained, although they go to be lawyers, but they come back to the region in a mentality of servitude. They don't come back to the region, or they don't come out of the region in Barbados and those places with an empowered paradigm of what law is. I think that is lacking in these current sets of lawyers. And so we need to start talking about a collective approach, maybe even talking about seeking international help from things like the ACCLU and in America and those places. I think that's where this thing needs to go, because we have to challenge this system in the court. We have to force these things to take place, because this makes no sense. If we're going to be always nolly-prost and not allowed to move forward, then the process has to be from a process of injunction filing and some cost and some willingness to fight these battles. So I think just as we have these regional conversations, we need to start talking about regional organizations. That we can find, international means to circumvent these governments and this injustice that's going on in the region, especially these 4, regional islands that most of us belong to. So I just wanted to put that out there, but I really think it's time for us to talk about a more internationalist approach and response to this injustice that's prevailing in our region right now through governmental,
All right. Thank you, caller. Thank you very much for your intervention here. Adriana, let me ask you straight up. Why Adriana King? And the others, of course, but when Miss Baptiste was speaking, I got a sense that Adriana King is singled out sometimes to be persecuted or prosecuted. Am I right? Am I correct in that?
I feel that way. I feel highly targeted because my family as a whole, I've been arrested multiple times. My cousin Kenson, my auntie Luzette. Why Adriana King? I cannot give you a solid answer, but I could tell you what others assume. Now, we've just come off of another live, and one person said that I was not supposed to leave the red, meaning I was not supposed to leave the ULP. Now, I did support the ULP in its early days, and I publicly denounced that party. So that's one reason why I might be targeted, because the Prime Minister has said plainly that you don't leave his party. There's also the family history that might be there. Ralph grew up in an area called Park Hill, and that's where the Kings are from. And he will refer to us as that when he's in Parliament. He's constantly talking about the Kings. And in that area, the Kings were quite wealthy. They owned a lot of land back then. And, I would always jokingly say that, okay, if he had beef, so to speak, or if he was upset or is upset at the fact that my foreparents owned, lands in Park Hill, then he shouldn't have any, beef with me, because I don't own these lands, so he really should not be targeting me. That's the most I could say, because this doesn't make sense to me, Lofty. I do not own a political party. I do not own a big business that comes up against the Gonsalves. I am not a head teacher of a school. I am not a sitting member of parliament. I am not leader of the opposition. So what his interest is, I think only he could really say. I am at a total loss because I do not see myself as being such a threat to Ralph Gonsalves and his administration. He is the one who is Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Well, you may not see yourself as that, but there's something about you, Adriana King, that
it's like
has been troubling. I must say. Yes, Ms. Baptist. Yes.
She's vocal and articulate. She's bold, and she does not step down or step back. And there are a few of them like that. So is Kenson King, and certainly so is her aunt, Luzette King. And so this government, to my mind, they don't like opposition, especially vocal opposition. And so because she has a following on Facebook with her programs, and so it is just not one voice. When she speaks, many persons listen. And I think it is the fear of her influencing people. And that is why they need to keep she and others like her silent. Because I think we have a government, as I've said, that wants to stifle opposition, want to stifle protest. Everybody must sing from the same song sheet. Do not criticize me. And if you have a voice and you speak out, then you're going to be targeted.
Okay. I'll be able to relate some similar situations in Dominica in a while. But Mr. Bruce, you have been there holding for some time. Do you want to chime in?
The issues that are facing us is twofold. In my sense, partly political and partly legal. I want to read for you, maybe to redirect from a short bit, the Section 6 of our Public Order Act and what it says. It says, for removing doubt, it is hereby declared that no person has a right to hold a meeting in a public place. It means a meeting held for the purpose of discussion of matters of public interest or for the purpose of the expression of views. I hope that is sinking in. If you read the Public Order Act of Dominica, maybe the same Section 6, you would find that the words are exact in both pieces of legislation. If we assimilate that and we put that on the left and put the Constitution that was handed to us in 1979 in the case of St. Vincent and Grenadines, and we put that on the right, we would clearly see where it has to be an affront to constitutional rights, that you're saying to people that no person has that. There are slight restrictions to that, that if you're holding a public meeting to the disturbance of the peace of somebody else, then you say, hey, let's sort this out. Let's put this in an orderly manner and function. So if you're going to have a public meeting, if you're going to use amplified system with amplified music and amplified songs, then you must do it within certain hours so that the rights of people to the entitlement for peaceful, those two can prevail. But to have a carte blanche provision that you do not have that right to hold a meeting in the public space, when the Constitution says that you have a right to freedom of assembly and the right to freedom of expression, because it goes on to say that a meeting means a meeting held for the purpose of discussion of matters of public interest or for the purpose of the expression of views on such matters. In essence, this act is saying that you are not permitted to go and have conversations in a gathering where the interest of the public is at stake. This cannot be, but here, so that's the legal part. Here's the political part. Here is the Prime Minister. Gonzalez said, So if you hold up placards in relation to any matter and you are gathering, it's a public meeting. That is his interpretation being made in addition to what the law says. So you see where you pigeonhole persons who may even want to come out simply to placard. You don't have to be saying anything. Because as far as he is concerned, and of course, if that is his interpretation, you could expect that to be parroted by the people in the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. But
and
I
the
want
police
to say
officers
something
as well,
else, because
Mr.
we had the
Bruce.
conversation quite naturally. But the question was asked of my senior friend, Marcus Matisse, about taking these matters beyond where they are and to challenge the constitutionality of them. I mean, it might be a safer route to go purely constitutional. But I don't know if Dominica is aware that some years ago, there were amendments to certain laws in St. Vincent where the Director of Public Prosecution has the power to stop, to nullipros a matter that is before the court, even if it's a civil matter, to take over and to discontinue. I was pleasantly surprised when I heard that was the position of our law. I don't know the whole in Dominica, but it also says to you, I think it had to do with the Michel Andrews case. I can't remember. I think it was some part of that, maybe. But there was a case that was before the court. Go ahead, Kay, go ahead.
Yeah, but it's not a civil matter because it is not quite true that he could take over civil matters. It was a private criminal matter. So the
private criminal prosecution. Yes.
Private criminal prosecution. We had charged the Prime Minister Gonsalves for rape, and we had charged him for indecent assault. And what the DPP did was to take over them and discontinue them, took them out of our hands. And then, as my brother Bruce is saying, they passed legislation amending the Criminal Procedure Code to stop any private prosecution without a fiat from the DPP. Now, I tested it after they did that by applying for a fiat from the DPP to bring up a private prosecution, and it was not given. It was not given. Once it is a political matter, once it may have political implications, so there they made him a watch guard. Whereas before you could bring private criminal matters because no way the police or any DPP was going to charge a sitting prime minister with rape or with assault. No way. So private citizens brought the charge, and we had him charged for rape and charged for indecent assault. And as we said, they were taken over by the DPP, discontinued, and the legislation amended so that no longer can you bring a private criminal action without the fiat of the DPP.
Ms. Baptiste, how long ago was that, may I ask? That case you're referring to?
That case, the rape case, was in 2008. 2008. It was like years after he came to power, with 2008, and so was the indecent assault cases. We had about 2 or 3 cases. We also had a civil case against him for assaulting a police officer, indecently assaulting actually, but it was assaulting his police officer, and they found ways to end that without taking it over and continuing it. The lawyer was changed. The girl decided to drop the case. Let me just put it out.
So let me ask a question. Actually, I got 2, but let me ask. Based on what you've just
Alvin,
said,
before you ask that question, let's just take that call now, please. 1 minute.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just take that call. I think that call is coming from St. Vincent and the Grenadines based on the area code. Caller, yes, good evening. You're on Civic Vibes.
Hi, good evening. This is Lizette King. You've heard my name several times.
Yes.
I'm calling because I'm excited at one of your callers pleading that this should, what we're dealing with here should be approached collectively. I have been asking for this for a long, long time. And I think journalists and radio hosts like yourself owe us some action. It is good that we're discussing these things, but people like Ralph Gonzalez are not moved because there are lots of people in the region who support this man and see him as the savior for Black people. He is the one going around talking about African reparation. So I am of the view that until we become a collective and challenge this man in courts, regional or elsewhere, the United Nations, and everywhere else that he appears, nothing or little will happen. And I hope as of tonight, we will go along that route. And before I go, I want to thank lawyers like Kebakis Batiste, Ronnie Balcom, Guevara, who is in England. He actually offered me his services because of what he's seeing. And there's Britain in the background would come forward, but we need lawyers from across the region to join these lawyers to challenge people like Roosevelt Skerrit and Ralph Gonzalez and anybody else who tries to take us and treat us as if we are on their plantation. I have one other point to make. Bruce raised a point and he read a part of the Public Order Act. Interestingly, when Magistrate Bala, throughout the case where Adriana, myself, and two others were involved, he made a point, and I noted it. He said the Public Order Act is not held unconstitutional. And by that, I took it to mean it is yet to be challenged. And it goes back to the point I'm making. Until we move with action, these talks would mean nothing to that cacodemon we have in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's not going to do much. We have to take action. We have to put him before a court of law. Already, he's controlled the justice system in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. When he appointed his own DPP and Attorney General, the DPP we have there now is already, what you call the word now, campaigning and that sort of thing. Our justice system is in a mess, and until we take it out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, out of CARICOM, very little will happen. Take care.
All right. Take care as well. You identified yourself as King. Thank you very much indeed. Yes, for your very
That's my auntie.
point. Oh, your auntie. Luzette King? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. All right, guys. It's what already. Yes, Alvin. You were making a point.
Oh no, I mean Miss Lorette or Lorette? Luzette. I mean, she is powerful, man. Very articulate. But let me ask you, Miss Baptiste, what you just described a while ago on the fiat and, you know, within this legal framework, as I may say, can that matter be challenged at a higher level? In other words, is that something that you could, let's say, go to the, I'm sure if you guys are part of the CCJ, you'll still go to the Privy Council.
We still go to the Privy Council.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not a matter that can go to all the way up to the Privy Council, or once it is dead there, they did what they did, then there's nothing that can be done.
They can be challenged. In fact, in that particular case, the rape case, and again with the police officer, Michelle Andrews, we had appealed to the Privy Council because after the threat out, we started preparing to appeal to the Privy Council. And I should say another tactical stride. What really happened is that we were fired by our clients. And another lawyer was appointed who was later made Attorney General. Another lawyer was appointed who discontinued the appeal and discontinued the civil matters that we had filed. So yes, you could take it to the Privy Council, but that was a strange turn of events because The lady who we were representing pro bono fired us. And that was the end of the case. They found a way to, it was a sad ending because I believe she regretted it, but it's been done already. But apart from that, you could always challenge law if a decision is made under it and you don't agree by the way of judicial review and have the law and review. There's always that angle. Yes.
Yeah. I need to ask a question of the lawyers in particular. Mr. Bruce, you're going to make a point earlier, right?
Yeah, I think I was going to make a point, but I think it eluded me. So,
okay. Well, once it gets back to you, then you can punch it. But the question I want to ask now, in terms of lawyers now, not just Mr. Bruce and Miss Baptiste, helping or taking up cases where the citizens' rights are trampled upon. How effective are you guys doing that in St. Vincent Grenadines now? Not as individuals, but as a collective. Do you guys first and foremost have what you call like a legal aid clinic or bar association or whatever it is?
Well, we do have a bar association. I think what you mean is whether the bar association has never challenged any of these things as a bar association. I know that it is done in some of the countries. I think Grenada might have, and some of the other OECS countries. But in St. Vincent, our bar association was, I should say now it's a little better, was certainly divided on political grounds. The last president was sitting there for about, I don't know, 10 years, maybe more than that. And nothing would have been done because it was straight along the line of politics. Sad to see. I think now we have a new president and we're trying to get out of that mold. But so to answer your story, there's no organization as such. Most of us, like comes to Bruce there and some of the names that Lucette called, we just come together out of our own civic responsibility and assist in these matters.
Wow. And I guess most times you guys are prepared to do it pro bono as well.
So let me ask a piggyback on that question you just asked, Lofty, to Baptiste and Bruce. You may be familiar, like the caller who called earlier spoke about the ACLU, the American Civil Liberty Union. Do you see the possibility of a group of lawyers throughout the region forming themselves into, let's say, something like that, an ACLU or CCLU, Caribbean Civil Liberty Union, where you challenge those matters? Do you see that as something that in the foreseeable future, is that something you think that can take ground?
Absolutely. I'm sure my friend Bruce, I don't know if you want to comment on it. Absolutely. And it's interesting that the caller from Grenada, from Dominica, and then the caller from St. Vincent zoomed in on that particular aspect of it. I think I agree that the time has come for us to take What is good is that we all are part of the OECS court. So we have one court system. So whether the matter is fought in St. Vincent or Dominica or Grenada or St. Kitts, it is binding on all of us. That makes it a lot easier too. So I do agree with that. And maybe you all can use your reach to the public to spearhead something, a union like that. And I would gladly serve on it.
Okay, Bruce, you want to comment on that?
Because I agree that an entity of that sort would be very helpful to the countries of the region, to the region by and large. I am also mindful of the fact that when you look at the union as it exists in the USA, it is not predominated by lawyers. It is predominated by social and civil activists. And what they do is that they will procure the services of lawyers as these civil rights violations occur. And I think there's a particular reason for it, because you don't want for people to start homing the notion that, well, here are these lawyers trying to form an organization so that they can access resources to pay themselves to take up every matter, whether they consider trivial or not, to go to court. So it's to me, you may have a lawyer 2-3 who are advising the AC, the Liberties Union in the Caribbean to see whether or not it's a matter that is worth pursuing and so forth and so on. So you can lend your support and so forth to that union, but I don't think lawyers should try to lead it up. I think the social and civil activists across the region could form themselves into a body of that like and get resources so that when there are violations in any of the countries that are under the jurisdiction of that civil liberty union, that they could summon the services of lawyers to represent these people who may have great financial position to represent themselves. So that is for me. And I say that to say this too. Whilst we understand that the political directorates across the region may have or may continue to impact and influence the direction of the legislative framework and actions, we have to be consciously focused on the law as they are on the books and to challenge the constitutionality of those laws. Because if they are challenged, then it doesn't matter who the leaders are. If the law is deemed unconstitutional, then neither Gonzalez or Friday in St. Vincent can use it because it will be unconstitutional. So if we could, yes, we inadvertently have to bring into focus the politician who heads up the state at the time and whether or not they're driving the legislative agenda to clean up the legislative framework that you have in such a way that it is reflective of the times that we are in. And if not, then the conscious citizens must then bring that to the fore. I can't help but bear to bring to mind a matter I did in the BVI about 2 years ago, or just close to 2 years ago, where the police had charged this young man and indicted him for failing to open his cell phone for police officers who were conducting investigations. And in the magistracy, I said, look, we're not interested in doing anything here. Let's go up to the High Court. And we got to the High Court and I challenged it. And the High Court ruled in our favor that it was unconstitutional request. And not only that, the High Court judge struck down a portion of the Cybercrime Act that exists in the BVI that I know has common portions across the entire region, because that particular segment, that section of the Cybercrime Act was in contravention of the constitutional right of the litigant himself. So we need to focus on the superstructure that is before us, and that is go at the pieces of legislation piece by piece, so that the Public Order Act that speaks to people and not being able to hold public meetings, that you don't have a right to hold a public meeting, is whether or not we challenge that. And as they come to the fore, and as we unearth them as they currently are, we should be able, through that entity, be able to challenge them piece by piece, one by one, segment by segment, and give the region a legislative framework under which to live that guarantees the protection of their fundamental rights and freedom.
Lofty.
Yes, go right on.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, could I just say this much? I hear my counsel and I understand his perspective, but I want us to consider this point. Here in St. Vincent and Grenadines, and it's perhaps the same throughout the region, things sound differently when they come from somebody who is qualified in a specific area. So that if I were to speak on the law, even though I might be correct, hearing it from me or hearing it from counsels Baptiste or Bruce, people are going to take it differently. I say this to say that if there were to be an organization, whether, locally or regionally, that focuses on civic rights and responsibilities, it would be very important to have a lawyer or some lawyers at the core of that organization, and not just to have lawyers who could be called upon to take action. Because when people hear information, legal information coming from a lawyer, they believe it. Whereas if they hear it from Adriana King, the teacher, they start questioning and they would say to you, oh, I would need to ask a lawyer about that. So I think it would be important that, a lawyer or lawyers were to serve on such an organization as well.
True. Yeah, thank you. And just, yes.
Yeah, I'm looking at the time too.
No,
I just want to say that I endorse
we have
Adriana says, but I understand what Bruce meant, that it shouldn't be just lawyers. And I don't think that is what anybody was saying.
No, that's not the intention. Absolutely.
Right. People right across the board who can
All right, we have, yes, thank you very much, Ms. Baptiste. We have like another 10 more minutes to go. Let's try and entertain this caller here. Caller, good evening to you. Make your points succinct, please.
Good evening to you, Lofty, and to your guests. Lofty, I'd like to congratulate you on this particular program. And I'd like to say that I'm not sure how up to date and aware the present lawyers on the program are in terms of our situation in Dominica, the legal situation, the proposed legislation coming for electoral reform. But I think in light of this, we are at a very critical point in Dominica where we need to have the sort of conversation that we're having now with lawyers throughout the region. And I'd like to know what their feeling is on my constant feeling that it is time for us to have regional organizations that are parliamentary bodies, parliamentary organizations, discuss the present legislation being put before our parliament very soon that will change the dynamics in terms of our electoral process, and for them to get more involved in discussing these proposals regionally so as to ensure that our democracy regionally is protected.
All right, caller. Thank you.
We have a very, thank you, my brother.
Yes, I was just saying your point is well taken, point made. We'll be sure from Civic Vibes and having those private discussions. And yes, if a conversation needs be, then we will have that in terms of the engagement with the lawyers from a regional standpoint. Yeah, but point well made. Thank you very much. Let's see if we can entertain another call. Wow, I think caller, are you there? Good evening.
Good evening. Calling you from Jamaica.
What Jamaica, Passy? Good evening to you. I was monitoring you earlier.
Yes, I have been listening in. And I believe that we must get donor agencies that are giving to St. Vincent and the Grenadines government to know what is happening to Adriana. I think we all have to come together, like I said on my program, to form an organization, maybe, the possibility exists that might have to happen, where we form a group and we start writing letters and we start calling all these people that can help. There is the Human Rights Organization, which is the International Human Rights Organization or Association, I believe it is called. We shall find the correct name for it and we shall start with them first, because her human rights are being trampled upon, and absolutely nothing is being done in St. Vincent, because obviously the people who are set upon, who have the responsibility rather to do something about it, they're either fearful of doing something about it or they're in support of the government. So you have to go outside.
Yes, I do agree. Thank you very much. Your point made, point well taken. Thank you very, very much indeed. Yes. All right, guys, we are surely running out of time, but that conversation, I can tell you, it must continue. And as some of our callers have alluded to earlier, not just talk, but action needs to be taken in that department for us as a region now, not just St. Vincent and Grenadines, Adriana's case, our case in Dominica. No, we need to protect our regional space from, the wannabe dictators and where democracy is concerned, and the list goes on and on and on. So yes, I believe we can do something in that department. Alvin, you want to make a point?
Yeah, just very quickly though. Two things. One, I agree with Adrian King. And I understand what Attorney Bruce have said. Can be a hybrid, and figure out how it's done. But like Lofty say, we have to talk on that. But the case he cited with the cyber security, where it was found unconstitutional. The question I have, was that section of the act, has it been repealed? And that herein comes the regional cooperation. Because if he, based on what he said, that he may be familiar with other jurisdiction has that same legislation in force. That is where, if we have a collective approach, we then can go in the other countries and say, hey, here you have on the books a piece of legislation which is constitutional, and where we have the courts in another jurisdiction that ruled it was unconstitutional. And that is where precedent comes in. A case starts off in its first format, and then it is used 5, 10, 100 years down the road, that citing a particular case. So my question is, one, whether that particular legislation was repealed or that section, and to what extent that the rest of your colleagues in the region, where, as you said, similar legislation exists, so we can take action to have that particular legislation repealed.
Right. So as I am aware, there's been no repeal of the particular section of the law in the BVI. The judgment has not been appealed by the Director of Public Prosecutions, but I have not seen an equal pickup of that point, although the judgment is published on the OECS court web. So you can find it there. Look for the matter of the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Attorney General's office against Michael Robin, or Michael Robin versus the DPP, something of that sort. I can't remember the exact name now. But you would see, if you look at, for example, the Dominica Cybercrime Act, I am sure, because what has been happening across the region is that these people who sponsor these legislative reforms, they simply take on the particular draftsman or draftswoman, and that person drafts a common piece of legislation to be passed across the region. And you have little tweeting by the government here, the government there. But for the most parts, they are passed carte blanche. So it is for the respective actors on the stage in the region to follow these judgments and to see whether or not the same provision is in their Cybercrime Act. I'm just using that as the example.
Right.
But the same thing for the Public Order Act. Is it that Dominicans are prohibited from going within 200 feet of their parliament if they wish to protest members of parliament?
200 yards, Bruce.
200 yards, sorry, yes, thank you. Is that the same thing in Dominica? And if it is, then is that something that speaks to the great body politic of Dominica and to protect the constitutional rights of the people of Dominica? So we have to look, it's almost having like it's like a watchman, for want of a better term. Having that watchdog. That's right. I wanted to use man instead of dog. to have that watchdog agency that will pick up on all these things as they happen in the respective islands in the jurisdiction, and say, look, the jurisprudence is shifting here based on this judgment. How are we addressing it? Do we need to then go and amend the Cybercrime Act in Dominica in relation to this particular ruling and so forth and so on? But it's something that we need to do, and we can benefit collectively from it.
Absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely.
Indeed. The lawyers here, Ms. Baptiste, Mr. Bruce, it would really be remiss of me if I did not sort of give you guys a heads up as to a situation in Dominica that has been eluding us for some time. It's a political dilemma. And so maybe we can have a private conversation. Maybe if you guys wish, as lawyers, that is now, you can come back on the program to help us, help educate, because that is what we are all about here at Civic Vibes. Our elections in Dominica, and I'm saying it straight up, they have been rigged. For want of a better term, they have been stolen. And when I say that, it means that our elections are not free, they're not fair, they're not transparent. So we are now on the road. We have been there for some time to sort of reform, as we say in Dominica, that process. But it has been that kind of roller coaster ride. You know, the powers that be saying one thing, shooting one thing, the people saying another thing in the interest of we have been there. Now you guys are lawyers, and we're talking about the regional unity and whatever it is, stability, whatever it is. So I'm just asking you guys now, please, if you guys would be willing to, first and foremost, have that private conversation with Alvin and myself, and if needs be after that private conversation, come to help educate or help empower. That's a better word, help empower, because for education, we have had enough education. Help empower the citizenry now, like Adrian and others are doing in St. Vincent Grenadines, to stand for our rights in Dominica, because those rights, I can tell you, have been slowly but surely been, taken away from under our feet. And if you look in Dominica now, those people who are willing to stand, they are far and few in between. And it is just, we are on a road, a very rocky road, that I really don't want to spell it too much of a doom and gloom situation, but I must paint the picture to you guys that whatever is pending in Dominica may well be reverberating in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the rest of the region, and it relates to our continued rights, our continued protection of rights and democratic way of life.
But I've been listening to you, and your position is not dissimilar to St. Vincent. We have alleged that our elections have been stolen. Rav Gonzalez have not been just really winning 5 in a row, as they say. Our elections also have been stolen. We brought election petitions, as a matter of fact, and I was involved in that, to show exactly how it was stolen. And that is another story by itself. But I get you. It seems as though you all are now trying to form an electoral commission. Is that what it is?
No, we have a commission. We have a commission, but to tell you the pledge of that commission is so political in nature, 3 against 2. We are trying to reform this system. So what we had before 40-something years plus has not been working for us in terms of the greater good. But it is really a tug of war.
I mean legislation.
The legislation, yes, we are trying to implement some new stuff.
That's what I thought. St. Vincent does not have an electoral commission passed in Parliament, etc. So our electoral office operates under, I think, the Prime Minister's office or something like that.
Okay.
Many of the, like Trinidad has one, Jamaica, Barbados, they have electoral. That is, so it lays out exactly how you should have electoral, how elections should run. And I believe that probably what is happening with you, though I don't know yet, is that you're pushing for electoral reform. The government that be will not want it because they like the system as it is. We in St. Vincent have been, in fact, I was even part of drafting legislation to be debated in Parliament when I was a senator for electoral reform. I actually drafted the legislation, but our then Speaker of the House shut us down and we never debated it. But if we look at all the laws that govern elections, if you look at them and the way they're set up, they are fairly democratic. The problem is who's operating, if they follow it or not. I don't know what system you all are trying to bring in, but if you look at it in Trinidad, and I did a comparison between the different electoral commissions in the islands, even comparing outside of the Caribbean too. And when you analyze them, if you follow it as it is, then it would be fairly, it should be okay, you can have free and fair elections. But everything has to do with who is appointed in what position. And I think that is where the problem comes. So yes, I'd be willing to look at it. It's one of my pet topics, as a matter of fact, because we need electoral reform in St. Vincent. We have a silly bit in our law that gives the government 15 days before election, a crazy 15-day registration period. And that is how the election is stolen every year. Within that 15 days, they put all sorts of people and stuff the list, gerrymandering, which constituency they want to put people in, and you cannot challenge it. By the time they finish doing it, it is election, and our law says if your name is on the register, you have to vote. So we cannot challenge the person and stop them from voting. That is a serious bit of legislation that we have to reform. It is really undemocratic and allows the ruling party to gerrymander.
Thank you very much, Ms. Baptiste, for that piece of information here. Caller, we have very limited time. We'll spare you like a minute and a half.
Yes, Lofty, a minute and a half is good. Protocol established. Lofty, one other issue we have to look at as a region is the way our judges have been selected. Because I'm suspecting, as you know, in Dominica, Roosevelt Scarrett is controlling the judiciary system in Dominica. He controls the DDP. He controls the judges. And I'm getting that same vibes from St. Vincent. So that's a big issue. We have to find ways where our judiciary system remain independent without the influence of these corrupt regimes, that they can maintain the law and order and stick to the constitution and the laws and stop have politicians influencing them on matters that's not even their damn concern. Sorry about my language, but thank you.
All right, caller, thank you very, very much. You said that he controls the judges. If we had time, I would ask you, but yes, Ms. Baptiste.
My battery is about to fade.
Okay, yes. So we have to wrap up now. Yes.
Yes.
but let me. I know I don't want to speak, but let me just say though, Ms. Baptiste and Bruce, and Ms. King, yes, we appreciate you all coming on board. But like Lofty say, this is a conversation that just started. And I think we need to take this thing a little further. I mean, the suggestion of a similar ACLU was mentioned, whatever structure or it's formed. I think that might be the impetus to get this thing going. We have to take some action. So Civic Vibes, like Lofty say, would like to have some after this
follow-up discussions,
conversation with you. And of course, I'm sure you have other colleagues in the rest of the region that you could talk to who would share the same sentiment, whereby we can take some concrete action on a way forward. And Bruce, I will definitely look up that case that you referenced, because I think that is critical. We need to start somewhere. So thanks for that information. And again, great conversation, but let's just walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah.
Talk and act.
All right. Alvin, thank you very much. Ms. Baptiste, your phone is dying, so let me just give you the first knock at your final comments. Thank you.
All right. I want to thank you both for having us on, Adriana, and today to discuss the problems with St. Vincent and Adriana. I know there's an Adriana in every one of the OECS countries, and I am positive that they listened with hope. I am hoping, though, that this is not the end of it. I hope that we will form that organization. And I have volunteered, I'm volunteering my services to be part of it. I don't think I have much time left. So if you black out, you don't understand why.
All right, thanks.
All right, indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Ms. Kay Bacchus Baptiste, for your fine intervention tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Bruce, your final comments, sir?
To your question, I'll be equally interested in making myself available to assist as you go along with the awareness of that process. I agree, my friend, that there is need for reform in the region. I continue to advance and to advocate that to collaborate to find solutions to the problems that we have. With regards to electoral reform that helps to determine how our legal frameworks are drawn and drafted, it's a pity I don't have time, but I would have liked to say to my good friend Kay Bacchus Baptiste, who's there with us, that I did some follow-up matter that she brought to me, and only to find that the person is also registered to vote in another constituency on the voters list. But I'll have that conversation a little further with you.
Talk about that.
I'm
Very
going to
interesting.
verify that.
Yes, okay.
But the other thing too is the Representation of the People Act that we have that governs the election of people into our government. So for example, as part of our RPA, if I was to pay someone to vote for me, I am violating the RPA. But if that person receives the money, we both will be held criminally liable. You know what that means? That person is not going to say that I paid them to vote for me because they don't want to be held criminally liable. We have to do a reform of the legislation. We need to set up independent election commission and not the commission that is based on who is in government and who is in opposition. So the 3-2 that exists in Dominica. There's a lot of conversation to be had. I realize we are out of time.
Indeed. Mr. Bruce, again, I want to thank you on behalf of the Civic Vibes team and the multitudes of people following us on social media. Thank you very much, my brother. Let's keep those communication lines open, and we'll be sure, talking to you in the future. Thank you again.
Yeah, cheers, man.
All right. Now, Adriana King, should I say the lady of the past hour and a half? The troublemaker in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Your final thoughts?
Well, Lofty, they say you must always make good trouble, and I think I've been doing just that. I shouldn't say I'm yet. I have never broken a law here or any other way, so good trouble it is. Thank you for having me on your program. I am really grateful to people like you and Janet who would take the time out to give your audience an idea of what is happening to me here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. I really do need all the support I can get because I'm at that point where I wouldn't say I'm going to give up, but I am tired. I'm honestly tired. It's been 3 long years having to fight for my job, having to fight for my salary, having to fight to keep my head above water. And I'm at the point now where I've just had enough. I would just like this to end. And so again, thank you for the opportunity to share what's been happening to me. And I hope that those who are listening understand that I do not see myself as a victim. I always say to people, there's still too much good happening to me and for me to walk around looking like some sort of mopey Jane. I still have people who are supporting me, people who call me and, just encourage me. Even when I walk the streets of Kingstown, there are people who call to me and they say, Miss King, more people are for you than you think. And I really do appreciate that. I appreciate all of the support I get. And so thank you once again. And I do hope we'll continue this conversation sometime soon.
Sometime soon indeed. Miss King, there's a word that says iron sharpeneth iron. And so you have friends, you have fans in Dominica as well, and the rest of the region. So let us just keep the fire burning. You do your stuff over there, we doing our stuff in Dominica, and for sure, as a pebble is thrown in a pond, it will send the ripples around, but the necessary benefits will come. Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. King.
Thank you.
All right, Alvin.
Yes.
That leaves 2 of us to do what we do best.
Well, I think, Lofty, it was a very interesting program this Sunday, both segments of it. The first segment with Margot and Pyro, and this segment with Miss King, Miss Baptiste, and Mr. Bruce. I think what came out of all of that is that there are similarities in terms of the problem. And, I always try to introduce my little Creole, which says, La bab kamawadu pwidi fe wuze sao. You might have heard that before, meaning that when your neighbor house is on fire, beard, make sure you have water, start wetting yours, because the fire might just spin across and burn your property. And that is clearly what we have in the region. These guys, and the thing about it, Lofty, they are in a club among themselves, because you see what happened when on the eve of the 2019 elections, when Skerrit Feely was being threatened and he called the RSS. Who is part of the RSS? All of them in the region that have to collectively agree to send the RSS to Dominica. And hence the reason why I think we have to form ourselves into some sort of organization. Call it whatever you want. The structure and all of that can be developed. But Civic Vibes, along with whoever in St. Vincent, Barbudas, St. Kitts, Grenada, St. Lucia, need to form ourselves in that grouping where we can represent the interests of the people. So I'm looking forward to us engaging Ms. Baptiste and Mr. Bruce again in the future, and to have some further conversation at our local level as it relates to Mago and Pyro, and to have a much more engagement. So great program, great conversation, and just want to wish everybody on the feed, quite a few of them there, a happy and a safe upcoming week.
All right, indeed, Alvin. Thank you very much, my brother, for your duty that you do here each and every time. I always appreciate you being here, Alvin. You add much value to the conversations that we normally have right here on Civic Vibes. Indeed. All right. So, folks, yes, that is it. That is all we want to bring down the curtains on things here tonight. Let me just leave Brother Nasir Fontaine in your ears just for a little bit before I finally bring it down to the wire. Let's do this one. He entitles this one Crucial. It's not this one, it's this one.
Breaking out the control, world on fire, red hot, yeah, fire burning, been and praying for things to get better.
So yes, Dominicans and those listening here and abroad, thank you very much for your eyes and ears each and every time, like I always say. To our formidable guests that made their appearance here tonight, thank you very much. First segment, Brother Pyro and Miss Buju, Miss Mago. My mind is on Buju, as I said, Pyro. Eh? Buju, good evening to you, my bro. So Mago and Pyro and the Walkers crew, good evening to you. And we had from St. Vincent and the Grenadines tonight with us, Mr. Bruce and Miss Baptiste, lawyers by profession, and Miss King, Adriana King, social activists in that neck of the wood. To all the St. Vincent's and the Grenadines posse on the live tonight, thank you very much. So that is it. That is where we're going to bring down the curtains on things here. See you next week, same time, same place from 6 o'clock. The Civic Vibes crew, love you guys each and every time. Bye-bye. We love you. Things I go brutal now. Load down, crucial, yeah. Oh, crucial, yeah. Crucial, yeah. Crucial, yeah. Things that get tougher.